moving on to 2017, which the current year that we're in, we both agreed that the most audacious watch of the year was the stainless steel Sky-Dweller from Rolex. You know, nothing crazy and new, but audacious nonetheless due to the controversy surrounding the release of the watch, as well as the reception that it's received, you know, both good from people that want to steal Rolex and, you know, bad from some of those that own the prior versions of the watch. So moving right along, unfortunately, we don't have one here for you guys to see. The watch is just that hot, and to be perfectly honest, we really haven't gotten that many of them, but we can talk about it nonetheless. So the Sky-Dweller, which was first introduced in 2012, was originally made in rose gold and white gold. Was it released in both metals the same year?
Well, there's also a yellow gold version.
And the yellow gold version.
They did, and then they started rolling out straps over the next couple of years.
Yes.
Basically, this is how you have to look at the Sky-Dweller. Rolex watches are designed to be timeless in the sense that they'll always be serviceable, they'll always be reliable, they're never going to do anything too controversial design-wise, but although the designs are timeless, they're not stuck in time. The era of making the 5513 or the 1675 for generations of buyers, that's over. Rolex puts a ton of money into R&D and product development, but when you're launching a movement like the caliber 9001 in the Sky-Dweller, which by parts count, 380 is their most complicated caliber, you have to try to make back some of that R&D up front with the most expensive variants. So with the original versions of this watch retailing for $48,150 and the new steel white gold bezel retailing for $14,400, well, there's a reason those early watches cost, you know, 3.3 plus times the cost of the new hybrid steel gold. And it's quite simply because Rolex needed to make its money back so that this steel watch could happen. And so that's the logic there. Now, if you bought the watch in full gold, nothing is going to change the integrity of the product you received. Again, lifetime serviceable, built like nothing else in the business with Rolex quality and precision.
And there is still a richness to the gold pieces that I think that, you know, doesn't, you know, I've tried on the steel ones, and there is a richness to the heft of the watch that also doesn't come across in the steel variants. And, you know, while I love the steel watches, I think the blue dial is absolutely gorgeous. I think that in the precious metals, there's a weight to it where you feel like you have a rich, luxurious watch on the wrist.
And it's certainly that. I would also say, remember, with the Yachtmaster 2, it debuted in precious metal because the caliber 4160, later 4161, cost a lot of money to develop. And again, Rolex with the R&D starts at the high end and brings it across the line. It's the same with luxury automakers. The dual clutch transmission starts in the supercars and the premium brand. Active suspension started with the premium brands. Tesla made a Model S before it made a Model 3. And that's how Rolex rolls out technology. Now, unlike so many of those other products, the Rolex never obsolesces. It never goes out to the curb. It never goes into the scrap heap. But the product lines do evolve over time, especially when Rolex sees the opportunity to do something with design that they haven't done before. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing the rolling out of the steel gold combo, but also the rolling out of the gorgeous blue dial, which is a first for the series for 2017.
And I think, too, you know, it's one of those situations where, you know, you mentioned the Yachtmaster 2, which was a watch that originally came out in precious metal that I believe Rolex had said was not going to be transitioned into steel. And then you saw the two-tone variant come out, the Rolex version come out in the steel and Everose. And then after that came the steel. And I think that that was the first time that you saw a transition going from the precious metal to the all steel, where it was unanticipated. And a lot of the Rolex collectors also thought that Rolex would keep its most high-end movement housed in gold. And we're surprised that they transitioned it into both the Rolex, the bimetal variant, and the all steel, especially at these price points. Because to be honest, at $14,400 for a stainless steel annual calendar from a brand like Rolex, I mean, it is a fantastic price. If you were to break down the retails and do an analysis, Rolex really should have been charging around $18,000 or so for this watch. If you compare it to how they charge for, you know, a steel GMT Master 2 versus a gold GMT Master 2, and then the same thing for a Submariner, this really should have been an $18,000 watch. And at $14,400, if anything, I'd say it's underpriced.
And I would also say this, it's important to remember that with both the Yachtmaster 2 and the Sky-Dweller, Rolex was listening to collectors. They were asking for steel. They were demanding steel. The people who wanted the steel watches were the Rolex purists. These are the guys who are involved in the vintage market. These are the guys who own every new Rolex made in steel, who are all best customers with their respective Rolex dealers. This was not people looking for a cheap watch. This was purists looking for the version that they wanted most. And Rolex is a sports watch company. It's their strongest suit. It's their most sacred patrimony. So to see this technology moved into steel, that's Rolex answering its customers and the call of its best customers. And I also think there's a mark of integrity here because Rolex is charging a price that reflects what it costs to make the watch in steel. Like Brian said, $4,000 more and they'd still sell every one they can make. What are you getting? You're getting a chronometer. You're getting a GMT. You're getting an annual calendar. You're getting a 3-day power reserve. All of this, arguably the ultimate travel watch, and with 100-meter water resistance, you can take it swimming. Have you ever held a Rolex on a modern bracelet? If you haven't, you would realize that the bracelet on a modern Rolex feels like the door of a 1985 Mercedes 560 SL. It's that good. This is the kind of watch.
Is that a good door?
That's a great door. That's the door to end all doors. Honestly, you slam that door, you got to get a replacement set of eardrums. That's a door, man, and that's a watch. That's how a Rolex feels these days. And to be able to get that in steel, again, the purist's material. And if you don't believe me, look at the auction results for steel Journe and steel and titanium Patek Philippe. Again, that's what the purists want. Rolex answered, and then with this watch, Rolex also offered a lot more value than it had to. Market dynamics would have supported a much higher price point, and they held out.
And what I think as well is, you know, you can see from the very beginning that this watch, from the moment it was released, you saw the demand. And in all three dial variants, in the white, the black, the blue, they're extremely difficult to get. And you now have very long wait lists for all three. And this is a watch that traditionally, I don't think you saw that same level of demand for a watch as you may have for if a new Submariner, new GMT Master 2 came out, or even the new Daytona. And right off the bat, this watch went crazy. And I think that it sort of shows you that Rolex really has that magic sauce, that they're able to take pretty much any watch within their line and make it a frenzy not only to get, but when you do get it, just an absolutely amazing feeling.
And I think it's worth mentioning that our whole concept of most audacious watch tonight was based on a little bit of controversy, a little bit of daring. What it was not based on was absolute outrage and, shall we say, wow factor. There are companies that do nothing but create outrage. Honestly, Romain Jerome had a Pokemon Tourbillon. That kind of pegs the meter. There are other companies that just do eye-popping watches and nothing but, the likes of MB&F and De Bethune and Urwerk and maybe even Hublot, you might say. They do nothing but watches that are designed to just bulge your eye out to the point that you break something and need to go to the eye doctor. We didn't consider them because we wanted to talk about companies that really went out beyond their comfort zone, that took a little bit of a risk and also caused people to talk. You see an MB&F Aquapod, you think, yeah, that's Max at his best. You see the watches we talked about tonight, and you think, you know what? They stepped beyond the pale, 1 foot within their identity and 1 foot in the world of adventure.